Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 36th episode of the Psychology Podcast with Karim. Today, my guest, Ichi Yamada. Happy to have you here.
Thank you.
This is a very special episode because for the first time after having lots of episodes online, I actually was supported by this beautiful co-working space and having these in person. So this is an experiment for me as well. So if at some point there will be some errors, it will be on my behalf. So how about we start, man?
Yeah, excited to.
For those people who listen for the first time, the concept of the Psychology Podcast is that I travel around the world in order to find the most extraordinary and successful people in order to find out about their journeys through life, what they've learned along it, so that I can deconstruct their attitudes, their habits, their mindsets, the way they do things, so that people like you and me can emulate their habits of success in our own lives. So before I talk more, Ichi, how about you help us here and say, if people ask you, what do you do? What do you say to them?
Yeah, that's a good question. I just say that I'm trying to build a community. Trying, yes.
Trying. So for people who don't have background, Ichi Yamada is a very successful entrepreneur, and the co-working space that we are in right now is his. So he's the CEO and founder, co-founder of Tropical Nomad co-working space, which is, if everybody of you looks for a beautiful co-working space in Bali, this is your place to go. And how about we start from here, man? It's anything you would like to add, or did I butcher your introduction completely?
Oh no, thank you, Daniel. It was a great introduction. So I'm not usually behind the camera, and this is really one of the few opportunity that that I have to be interviewed, because I was always been in the behind the tech, and always been helping other events for doing live streaming and things like that. And that was kind of the excuse that I always said to people, that I can't do interviews because I have to be the one that recording this. But yeah, now we aren't. Tropical Nomad actually grew, and I think it's grew the most during the pandemic. So because before pandemic, we really suck at everything, right? We are very new in town. Honestly, there are a lot of other co-working spaces that they were doing, the community things very well. So we were like trying to figure out what's actually our niche, what's our strength. Trying to find the right kind of click with the people and what they were looking for a community or co-working space, really. Yeah. And we didn't get it until really when the pandemic hit. And so when the pandemic hit, it was like, okay, everybody's gone from this island. What are we going to do? So I asked my staff, hey guys, this is a pandemic, and it seems like it's going to be fairly long. We thought it's going to be over in 3 months. No, it's going to go for maybe more than 6 or 9 or 10 months. What do we do? And I said, honestly, if you guys really want to, call it quits and then, stop working, then that's okay, because, yeah, we will have a problem to pay your salary in a normal way. And surprisingly, and people encouraged me, and that it's better that we keep on going. What's the point of closing down and then not doing anything? It's rather be with members that decide to stay in Bali rather than closing the business. They want to continue. They say, "Are you sure?" And I say, "Yeah, that's a lot better than going back home and staying with their families." I said, "Wow, okay, thank you so much. That means that we will have to make a sacrifice, or everybody have to make a sacrifice. But that's probably the best thing to do. Let's try, and let's be the leader of this small community that's what's left behind in Canggu."
Yes, thank you for sharing that. And that's actually one of the topics that this podcast is going to be about. How you matured personally from a psychological standpoint to the kind of person who can inspire courage and endurance and diligence from the staff so that they move on, even though just from an economic sense, maybe would have been more wiser to go. But because they believed in your vision, they stayed. So my question is before we start about your current projects, where did it all start? Like, tell us a little bit about your upbringing, and maybe Start from there.
Yeah, okay, sure. So I've been always nomadic in the sense that I've been living in 4 different cities in Japan when I was growing up, and I moved to Malaysia, and I moved to Australia, and these are when I was still in student. So I did my university in Australia. So that's why I'm Japanese, but I'm also very it's nomad for a long time, for my entire life, really. And so Bali's been a place that after I did my corporate career, and then when my health wasn't doing very well and I needed to change my lifestyle, I discovered Bali. And since then, never went back, never gone back to any place again. I just stayed, and I think that's really because I felt that this place actually embraced people like us, people like nomadic, who doesn't really have the roots, but yet this island is very welcoming, and it's actually very comfortable. As a foreigner or as a totally different background, it really welcomes you. Mm-hmm. And so that's how I start living in Bali.
Yeah, amazing. So you have quite the. I remember from our last conversation where you told me about like the nomadic heart that beats in your chest. But where did it start? Like, in what country did you grow up in, and what was maybe like a first sign that you would go a different route than most people around you? Because these are the people I talk to, like difference makers who are usually a bit different themselves.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's the as a upbringing. I was in Japan until when I was 12. So a lot of that values and my obviously Japanese was my mother tongue, and but it was also our parents and my especially my mother and also my grandparents that they are the ones that actually encouraged me to go overseas. So my mother was quite a character. She was in university when she had baby, and then she decided to quit the university because in those days were more fashionable to be as what do you call like doing demonstrations, and then she was a bit of a I won't say outlaw, but she was very, very active, and so she got kicked out of the university. Later, my grandparents encouraged her to go to America, and so that's why I had stayed with them for 1 year when I was a kid, like when I was like 4, in a small tiny city of Albuquerque, New Mexico. So that's I still remember the horizon. It's really nothing there in those days. So it was beautiful. It was a really beautiful place, and so maybe that was also one of the reasons that I was being very, very comfortable. I learned how to adapt into different environments, different cities, different countries. Yeah. So I left Japan to Malaysia, and that was also with my family, with my mother and my grandparents. My granddad was academic, so he took up a post in Malaysia.
What place,
Academic. So
academic.
Okay. He was a professor in poultry science. So he said that he wants to go to tropical, like country. So okay, so we followed, and that's my beginning of my journey to outside of Japan. Yeah,
fascinating. I'm always interested in the reason why I started this podcast was because I was fascinated by the power of teachers and by the powers of mentors. And there's just something about like if you talk personally to these people, it changes you more deeply than if you would pick up a book, for example, or if you watch something on YouTube in a way. What do you think is like a lesson about life that was useful that your mother instilled within you that was one of the precursors to you becoming who you are?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, I think my mother had a really had an influence in a way. Like she was very free-spirited, and she believed in alternative ways of educating kids. So yeah, so basically she she said that, yeah, just go and learn English, and then find out in the school, So I was like deaf and mute for 2.5 years, couldn't speak a word of English. But one day I started speaking, then that was already 2.5 years. And I have to be very thankful to the school that they were like having this, kid that was really there, but not really there. But I was really struggling, and I was carrying small, tiny dictionary everywhere, and then trying to like decipher what the other kids were saying and all that. So that's like when I was 13. So, yeah, and that's how she would say that you're gonna have to really experience. Don't go back to Japan. Just go out and then learn different culture. So after Malaysia, she just sent me to Australia, and that's why I was kind of had to really like, okay, now it's not just talking. Now I'm gonna have to be able to write essays, and we have to be able to do debate and all this different kind of like gave me really really like a training for English as language, and also trying to adapt to different culture, and So that's I think it's my mother has so much influence on that. She really trusted me, but or she was totally irresponsible, or whichever way that goes. But
I love that notion. I've been as the CEO of the Behavior University, and before in my private practice, I feel that it's the most successful parents are those who grant the permission to the children to have their own adventures rather than clinging on to them in a way. So it's I'm not like a father yet, walk too much at tropical, so you're partly responsible for this.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully.
You better socialize a bit more.
Trying. But it's what did this teach you about parenthood in that regard, in regards to what your mother said? Or maybe you have a message for somebody who hasn't had like that kind of parental role model in regards to what you would try to give to that person in regards to the idea of going out and have their own adventures and try things for themselves. Does that question ever make sense to you?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's it's very important. I think it's for any process of growing up for kids is to have a space for freedom. I think I've seen that a lot of, especially in traditional cultures, the parents tend to be very, very traditional, and they tend to want to control everything. They want to have like, lay the rail practically for the kids to so they can just go and then like just follow that rail and go all the way to universities and everything. But I'm probably because of my upbringing, I'm quite pessimistic of that kind of style of education or way of teaching. So I believe in like trust and believe in your kids, and let them do what they have to do, let them discover, make mistakes. It's absolutely important to have a culture of failing is okay. That's I think it's also translates at the community as well. If the community is very very negative about people failing, then there's no more innovation. There's no more people trying to do change things or be creative and do something out of the box, because everybody will be so afraid of failures, right? And it becomes a stigma, and the stigma it's very unhealthy, because people become risk averse, and they will just follow whatever people say that's good, and they just continue to do that way. So innovation doesn't happen from that kind of environment. So I think for children, they really need to be, especially today when AI and all that is really changing the world right now. We have to be creative. We have to teach the kids to say that, be innovative, use these tools to think out of the box, do something totally different from what the other kids are doing. And so that you will make your own, discoveries, you will find your own strength, and, hopefully that you'll discover what you like and what you're good at. And then earlier the better, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I couldn't agree more in regards to the permission to fail as a crucial precondition to inventing something that is of use to the rest of the species, it comes like a personal story to mind where I was a very bad student, got kicked off from 3 schools, and until I became an entrepreneur, I just thought I was very stupid, and it's because I failed to some degree, and it took me really years to meet successful people who pat me on the back and say, like, I have a whole graveyard of failures behind me, of people rejecting me, and this is, you're walking the path, just keep trying in a way. Do you have any particular favorite failure story of yours that comes to mind in regards to the first chapter of your life that later set you up for success?
Honestly, I think it's I have fair amount of failures, and I think it's like a struggles, and yeah, I think a lot of you probably will relate, especially like trying to start businesses and trying to succeed. But often the case is that we think that that's the right way to do it, but we're kind of wrong, and we will have to make a few different pivots, right? And eventually you make it, or you say, okay, I give up. And then it's honestly, in the last 15 years in Bali, it's a lot of hit and miss, trying and and to correct it and fix it, and all that kind of things are it's been my kind of daily affair. So I guess that's makes me more willing to take a risk. I know that these things won't go easy, and we have to make several different pivots in a way, but eventually we'll get it, or we'll just completely transform into something else. But that's I think it's I mean, Bali is a beautiful place, and then it's like I mentioned, it's quite tolerant in my opinion. It's very entrepreneurial. A lot of people are doing new things. And then even you fail, there's usually a way to turn that around. So I think it's I got too many stories about that. But
I can relate so much to what you just said. It's particularly in the first years where I didn't even know that I was an entrepreneur. I thought I didn't have what it takes because whatever I touched didn't work. But later on, for example, when I started helping other entrepreneurs with consultancy or whatever, I realized, damn, my mistakes now have value because I can prevent them from making the same ones in a way. And maybe that would be a good follow-up question. Like, until you were 25, like, what was the moment where you have been really tested in regards to your faith, in regards to your willingness to move on? What was like the first big disappointment for you, where you really tried and something didn't work out for you?
I think it was when I was like 25. So I was trying to really get the career in IT going, and what I realized is that it's actually its job market wasn't very good in those years, and it was really a struggle initially because I took a kind of a hard path, but I decided to work for Japanese company, and so I worked with a Japanese bank, Japanese IT companies, and that was like a really tough, because it was like relearning of the culture, because by when I was at the university, I really lost that like Japaneseness in me, because first is that
what does Japaneseness mean?
It means that uniformity, like you have to be same as others. You go through the education system to basically fit into the mold, and you expect that the companies will take care of you for the rest of your life because you are fitting right into the mold, and then that's exactly what the company wants, right? Yeah. So all that I didn't have because I was growing up like free and easy in Australia. So, but I realized that also that having a multi-linguistic background might be an advantage, and so I still tried, and so I basically relearned the culture, everything from zero again. My Japanese, I had to brush it up because it wasn't, business worthy. Business communication is extremely important. There's a formalities, right? So all that I had to relearn from zero.
Yeah.
I didn't even know how to address people properly, and that was really, yeah. So that was actually the first initial like really challenge, but I just like I loved reading, so I kept on like reading Japanese stuff, and then so that's how I kind of like regained back all the familiarity with the Japanese terms and business communications and all that. Yeah.
Any particular book that you encountered during this episode of your life that shaped you more than others into who you became?
I think it's. I think there are several books, but I think it's what I really impressionable is actually I didn't learn a lot from the books. I just realized, actually, yeah, but mostly from the, from the practical side of sense of things, like 7 Habits. These books are like I actually I read the 7 Habits, and then and that was a really great book
For Stephen Covey, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, yeah. And for me, that was kind of like a beginning to understand what is actually, how do you actually be able to be effective in a corporate settings. It also applies to community as well. But in that kind of sense, how do you be able to still, be productive, still have a ability to even if it's Japanese company and everybody expect that you are supposed to know what you're supposed to do and just follow, right? But in that books, yeah, I learned that how I can be more effective. Yeah.
What do you think is one of the things that is beautiful about Tropical Nomad, I feel, is a lot of hungry, brilliant people here who try to get their first breakthrough. And I see here many people who work here late at nights, to burn the candle from both doors, to make it happen. What was the first moment for you where you got a big break and when you realized I'm on the path to becoming successful, or I made it in a way? Can be financially, can be. What is your idea on this?
I think it's never. I never really felt that I made it, or like there was a real success. To me, it's always like building up something, and it is, to me, it's like being a continuous like journey. So when I first came to Bali, it was really difficult, and after a few years, after learning the language, after learning the culture, I start to have several different restaurants and cafes, and these became very some of them was very successful. So in a sense that I felt that, finally that's like things are working out. I mean, that's awesome, but never really satisfied, because to me it's like I think there's a lot more that we could do. Just doing something in Bali alone to me was always like that's like a small business, and we love small business because it's easy to manage. It gives you a good work-life balance, freedom, basically being in control of your own time. I really appreciate it, and I really love it. But I think there's something more that could be actually be desired. It can be make into reality. So kind of like I'm in a journey to just continue to try and then see how far this journey takes.
If we would talk to Ichi Yamada, who's 18 years old, what would be the accomplishment you scored until now that you would be most proud of? Because maybe that helps you a little bit more to nail down those points.
18 years old, I was so confused. Dazed and confused, I guess.
Dazed?
Dazed,
you can
maybe.
also tell me a little bit about that.
So yeah, I mean, it's like in Australia it's pretty free and easy going in those days, and obviously one of the the problem was that I really was rootless, or so identity crisis. I don't really know who I am because I'm not really Japanese. I'm not really absolutely no Australian. What am I? There in those days, being a nomadic wasn't anything cool about it. So it was like I really had like an identity crisis. I didn't know who I am, what I should be, and all that. So that's probably why that, in a later time in my life that I went back to like trying to connect back to Japanese culture and society and all that. That's why I went for that. But I think in 18 was like totally, I was like, yeah, doing anything, yes, just do all the smoking and all that kind of stuff, or different kinds of things, and that's why it was days and confused in the sense that what's really like, what is this life about? Like what can I do? I was totally had no idea, no clue whatsoever. What am I good at? What am I really passionate about? Didn't really know.
Do you think it was a necessity that you had this confusion in order to go to your own path? And if you could travel back in time to put your hand on young Ichi and the troublemaker that you were and talk some fatherly sense into him, what message would you choose to convey to that young version of yourself? And would he listen?
Wow. Yeah, I would probably say that, just be focused and try to find what you really love and do what you really love. I think that's what is really important. It took me a very long time to really discover myself. So, when I was 18, I really had no clue. And I think I made too many detours and still trying to probably journey to really discover and find out what I really, really, want to be, to like something.
Part of what this podcast is also about is to help young men like me, even though I'm not that young anymore, anyway, I'm still learning, is helping us to get our act together in regards to becoming an admirable character such as yourselves, ourselves in a way. What do you feel was the moment where you arrived at manhood, so to say?
Wow, that's also a deep question. I feel that the manhood for me hasn't really quite, I don't think that I actually, like, I'm forever like trying to get to somewhere. This is a journey, I feel, and I won't be surprised if I'm 100 and I'm still working, because I don't think there's any. To me, as a goal is forever. It's going to be always be moving, and in different time of your chapter of your life, you have different goals, but you'll move on to the next chapter pretty quickly. And I think it's like you always find passion, and you'll always try to fulfill. I think, yeah. So I don't feel that I've come to manhood. I think it's like I'm still like learning, and I think I've achieved very little in my life, honestly.
Yeah, interesting humility. I met an interesting guy. Like I was making a movie in Thailand last month. I met this programmer in the train, and he said to me something that resonates with your message. I feel he said, like, Daniel, rather than what you walk on, it's more important to always work towards something in a way. And from a psychological sense, this is very true, I feel, because it's positive emotion ensues in correlation to working towards a valued goal. But the moment you reach it, it's no longer like the emotional sensation vanishes in a way. Anyway, was there a time in your life where you didn't have this beautiful ethos or approach to life, where you were looking for it in a way and suffering as a consequence?
Yeah, I think when I was in the corporate world, it was really. I felt that it's really like kind of like a rat race. That seriously, I'm in a rat race, and then I have to find, how can I, outpass the others, like a similar, other workers or something like that. And I was kind of driven, but at the same time, I wasn't a, top performer. I had my niche, and then that was kind of it. And I felt that how long can I actually keep this up? It's like it's just not fulfilling. So that was my struggle, because it was like, I don't know what I'm doing this for. How long am I going to do? Yeah, you try to really like, every couple of years I was changing jobs and trying to get a better jobs. I was lucky to be headhunted to another company, and then so I was like doubling my salary and things like that. But if you're living in the large cities, the problem is that your living cost is also very high, so it's never enough. Once you buy a car, you got to all this loan and everything, and then you're kind of like stuck in that loop, and yeah, it's terrible. That's why I kind of probably my body gave up on me first when I really wanted to, like, yeah, I have to keep on going. But I had a condition called cluster headache, and cluster headache, another name for it is a suicidal headache, and it's really bad, and it's because there's so few cases in the whole world. Doctors doesn't have a treatment that can actually cure this. So what they can do is that they can just provide a painkiller, and it's an injection, and you're gonna have to inject myself, every time that happens, and the episode can be like 3 episodes a day. Each episode may last for 3 hours. It's basically there's no life. It just kills you. So that's why I was willing to, like, I'm gonna have to work harder and all, but my body was saying, like, yeah, stop it. It's not gonna do any good. I think that was really like my inner body just telling me that this is just not the right kind of thing to do. So that's actually was my toughest moment in my life, I think, to give up and let go and then try to find a new way. Yeah.
Who did you have during this time who helped you to take this curse and transform it into a blessing, so to say?
I think it's yeah. I mean, thanks to my wife, yeah, and also support to be able to let go and move on to new environment like Bali. So honestly, the cluster headache actually disappeared within a year when I first came to Bali.
Really?
Yes. So
what do you make of that?
I think it was just the pressure that I was exerting onto myself. That was actually the cause. And then once you let go, you learn to let go, and then you realize that now you have a freedom, then that everything changed. Yeah, so it's still the same in terms of like daily challenges, financial challenges. You're trying to, do the hustle. You do the building a new companies and all that. It's still the same, but I think it's like fundamentally when you actually know that you can let go of things, that is a game changer. It was for me. So now I know that okay, yeah, I have to let go of things when the time comes. Never try to like keep it to yourself forever, because nothing is forever, right? So that's a lesson.
Thank you for sharing that. And was this a pivot for you where you became more aware of what kind of entrepreneur you were becoming in a way? Because one of the things that I'm particularly interested in is how do the most successful people in the world think in regards to this? And I know that's very weird if somebody throws like this acknowledgement to you, but you have so many businesses and many of them are thriving, and you've reached some levels of financial abundance for yourselves. What do you feel was a pivot point where you started to think correctly? Or were you just born with it and we are all fucked and because we can't emulate it?
No. I think I think it's this way of life here, and it's way of thinking. So what Bali teaches you, usually for a long timer like myself, I've been living in Bali for about 15 years now, and what teaches you is patience, enormous patience, because there's so many things that can go wrong here. It's not within your control. It's actually completely out of your control sometimes, and it's very different from the Western world. We're taught to be able to control things, and then you are supposed to manage it and then make it work, right? Over here, sometimes it's just not possible. There's too many external factors involved here. So a lot of times it's like basically you're just like hoping that something will turn around, and that is completely like not submission, but you're gonna have to also really learn how to calm yourself, because if you're going crazy with every single challenges that Bali throw at you, you will definitely go crazy, because you probably have heard different, many stories about Bali. Sometimes it can be very ruthless. It can be very yeah, it's nothing fair in this world, and Bali could be also one of those nightmares. You know, the things goes wrong, people will try to you know con, you know, they might actually, you know, steal your money, they might actually, you know, there's so many things can happen here because everything is based on the trust, and you trust that person, what that person do, promise you, right?
Yeah.
And so, of course, there's a huge risk around it. So, patience, that's what Bali teaches you. Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. One of the things that I find interesting about this story is how, in the end, it leads all to the acquisition of core psychological virtues, right? So like there seems to be a recipe in place from the groundwork of how a character has to be constructed so that he becomes successful in a way. If you would write the chapter for a book on how to get rich, what would be the first name of the chapter, that if you could contribute one, and what would be the content of it in a way? Not from a sense of like just financially maybe, but where you talked, excuse me, where you talk to a person and, I'm sorry, I'm a bit sick. Where you talk to a person and you, maybe a young man, and you want to help that particular person to become a strong provider and protector for his family. So what would be the content and title of that first chapter? You can think about it.
Okay. I think first chapter will be about know your strength. I think it's extremely important that you know what you can do well and what you cannot do well. Pick the fight that you can win. Don't pick the fight that you're not going to be able to win. And I think that's really important. In my opinion, because there's so many, especially in Bali, I think there are a lot of new money always, you know, floating in this island, you know, and we are all kind of like, yes, we will raise fundings and then we might successfully get funded sometimes, but sometimes it could be a real struggle, and there are your so to say enemies and all that, maybe trying to, you know, cut the deals behind your back and then trying to kick you out of that, you know, situation that you are supposed to be able to get the right to do certain business, for example. And you know, we have to know how to play this game because there's just too many, you know, big money floating right now, and you cannot always win, right? Even though we had the best business, like best pitch, you know, financial models, it's sometimes, especially in today's, you know, how the global economic situation is, it's not, investments doesn't come as easy as before. Mm-hmm. Put it that way. Yeah, I think it was being so lots of different kinds of projects that really got funded, but then because they were so badly performed in the last, you know, year or two. Like especially in Web3 or, you know, cryptos and all that, it's quite of a cyclical cycle, right? So I think it's we need to know which, you know, where can we actually go in, and then how we can actually, you know, win. How can we actually get some market shares, or, you know, that's so important now to be able to pick. So that will be my first chapter. Yeah, I will say that know yourself, your strength, and then find the right market to go into it.
I love it. And what would be very interesting to me is like two questions in a way. The first question would be, what's a personal story that would be in this chapter in regards to how you learned this, in regards to finding out your strengths, in regards to how you acquire this particular set of wisdom? The follow-up question is, I would be interested if you, like, I feel that when you're mediocrely successful, you're also spared from enemies trying to take what's yours. So it's like when you reach higher in a way, there's like people who work behind your back. Do you have maybe like a story to share where your naivety as a businessman crumbled and you opened your eyes to the idea that there are actually people who are working against you in the competitive market that we have? If that's shareable in a way.
Okay.
You can pick a question. I know it's I throw like two at you at the same time, but it's you can pick one.
Okay.
Do the questions make sense to you though?
Yes, 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 makes sense. Yes. So I think maybe I can answer the second part of the question.
Yeah,
Is that
sure.
right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that, yeah. I think it's okay. So there was an opportunity for this restaurant business. It was doing very well in Bali, and there was a offer to open up a franchise in another city, right? And then so what I trusted was that this offer sounded fantastic. It was being offered by somebody really successful, very well known in that city. He had these people had the political connections, and they were like really like impressed with what we were doing, and they were coming in like they really want to expand the business together and all that. It's nice talks. So what happened is that they actually we signed a MOU first, and then it was supposed to be like a franchise agreement.
What is an MOU?
MOU, like memorandum of understanding.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And so we were kind of in a rush to be able to open up the new venue very quickly. So the venue was provided with very good terms in one of the CBD area in that city, and the people behind that project was very well known. It's very wealthy people and very credible as well, and so we trusted our partners that they were bringing in all these people in. They secured the location. So what happened is that they actually did the company setup for that locations. They also said that, hey, we realized that you haven't got your trademark actually sorted out. Yeah, because we were like, this is the first outlet, and we didn't go to that far yet, right? So it said that they have the legal people. They can actually do all of that very quickly, and we'll do it for you. And I said, yeah, please do it under our company name. So that's like whatever information you need. I really appreciate your offer to do that for us with your lawyers. And so things started to go really weird because like renovations and all that wasn't really like on schedule, on time. The designs were a little bit like questionable, but they said they want to really go with that because the architect or the interior designer was quite famous. And they opened up, and then nobody came. The restaurant wasn't, basically there was no marketings going on and all that. And I said that we really want to get involved in that business, even though it's a different city. We trust you guys, but let us help you, because over here we know how to do this, but over there you guys are not doing the right thing. But they were like, no, everything's okay, And then so we've been like chasing for the all this like improvements. Didn't happen. 6 months passed. We didn't get to sign a franchise agreement. We didn't get to see the status on the trademark, and we found out they actually shut down the shop, the restaurant. So it's like, okay, what happened? What's going on? Yeah, what's the status on all this? And no answers, right? So we checked, realized that trademark's actually being registered, but it's registered under person. It was that person who wanted to have that franchise, and she never signed a franchise agreement, right? And so that was like, oh shit, okay, our trademark's been stolen. So yeah, that was actually because of our naivety and believing, but obviously we didn't have the experience and these kind of case, that people could actually do these things. They're well-known people. They're publicly well-known people as a very large business people, right? So it's a lesson learned.
Mm-hmm. What do you feel is the lesson that you learned? And if you every entrepreneur has I feel like a toolkit that they carry around with them in regards to psychological wisdom. What would you put in it in a way where you would take, like, if you couldn't take a 22-year-old young entrepreneur aside and you want to crush the naivety that person has so that that person doesn't have to learn all these things by themselves, what would you tell that person, and what would you maybe equip them with to protect themselves from predatory or people who want to take care of them?
Great question. I think it's very important to have backup plan. So assume that your business assumptions and all that can't just change overnight. That's what happened with the pandemic, right? Everything changed overnight, literally. So we have to have a sensible backup plan for everything. Always have that, and then so that you can pivot, because whatever you have an online platform, or you have a distributor that's going to sell your products, whatever, it could fail. Meaning to say that your assumption may not actually work. So therefore, how do you continue? Are you going to give up? Probably not. So always have benefit of doubt, but behind you have to prepare a second plan or backup plan for everything. I would say that's, spend some time. So just in case that the business idea doesn't work out, what would you do with those intellectual properties that you may already have built? How can you apply that to different scenarios, different opportunities? I think that's kind of like keep it in your back of your mind.
Great answer, and it comes back to how you grew up in regards to being adaptive and flexible and finding your own way instead of following only the path that university or school or somebody else provides for you, right? Lots of entrepreneurs here have big dreams in Tropical. We have great ideas, and I feel there's some high-level talent of inventors here who are either waiting to be discovered or at some point find people who fund their inventions to make the world a better place, hopefully, and not just some useless stuff they're working on. You have been dancing the fundraising game a couple of times. If you would create a freebie for my university on how to raise funds, and you have just like 2 or 3 minutes, how would you explain to somebody who does this for the first time?
I'm still learning the art of fundraise, and of course I don't think that I've mastered it yet, but what I can tell and share with people that's just getting into fundraise is that do not be too optimistic. Always be pessimistic about it, and then always try to diversify your fundraise targets. It is very important to be able to address different targets. There are certain, especially for startups, usually it starts with angel investors, right? So usually the angel investors are your friends or your family. That's a majority of cases, is these people that really trust in you, as because they know you. And you're going to have to have a great responsibility on your shoulder to be able to take that money, because you know that these are investors' money, but these people we know quite well, yeah, and they're trusting in you, right? So it's a huge responsibility. So that's obviously usually that's the first route that you will go fundraise, and you will go for those people to help you. So what's important to know is that the first fundraise is just to make you kickstart that project. Second fundraise is to return that money that you were given to those angel investors. So you have to make sure that your business model is solid. You have to make sure that you know the market, and then have already mindset that you don't be happy about just angel investors, and then even if it is that your projection and all that is fairly realistic and then not so crazily high, always think that, okay, I'm going to have to return this quickly, and then I'm going to have to get the new investments. But to convince the next investors, the seeds or the pre-seeds people, you're going to have to be well prepared. They don't want like the angel investor pitch. They want to know that it is already legal, structure is solid, the financials are credible. You might need an auditor to audit your numbers too, right? And then so you can't just be like mom and pop shop and then just doing your own accounting. You're gonna have to be ready to submit. This is the financial report of last year, and we are on track. This was our target, and we did this, and that's kind of on target. It doesn't have to be perfect and all that, but they really need to see that and be convinced, right? So, of course, when it comes to institutions, which is the next level, totally different ball game. So they will have to, they will also scrutinize further, and they will be looking at scalability, because for them it's everything has to be more than 10x. Otherwise, they don't invest, right? So, once again, your assumptions, business assumptions were they accurate? Can you actually achieve that? What was the track record in the first, couple of years of the business, so that this number will be the material to explain to the institutionals that this is a scalable business. This can be expanded really quickly. We're talking about not just 2x, 3x. This can be like 10x and more. So I think that's you have to have a mindset that not just at the beginning about the angels, but think through the whole runway and prepare. Yeah.
Starting with the end in mind in regards to your vision, I like that idea. I'm going to use this opportunity to ask a personal question, if that would be all right. I'm currently in the first fundraising episode of my life. I never really liked asking for help. I come from a father we're always self-reliant almost to a fault. We don't like to ask for help. So that's like kind of like one of the things that is impeding me in a way. It's like I don't even like the idea of not bootstrapping my own ventures. Right now I'm at a point like I'm raising between $500,000 and $3 million in a way, and that's the sum for me that is outside of my financial thermometer in a way. Do you have a story to share in which you scaled up your belief systems in regards to how much you can ask for and what you can need? If that question makes any sense, because I feel it's, particularly if you come from IT, the money you needed for all of this, everybody knows it was higher than for the computer that you needed to buy beforehand in a way. Do you have some advice for this, and this question makes sense to you?
I think it's in the IT industry is one of the bad examples of, I think, it's fundraise, because it's always been a hype, right? It's IT companies always been hyping for the as long as I can remember, with the technologies and all that, which is basically promising things that actually doesn't deliver. But if the story is good, then people invest, and then there will be enterprise customers, corporate customers. They will spend millions on these products and services. So that's been like the how they've been spinning the stories, and then exiting from one to another, and then eventually going IPO and all that. So I think it's $3 million is a fairly large amount to raise, and I think it's like as you probably already know, that the last year most of the venture capitals, they didn't actually get any return from their startups that they invested, and therefore this first year of this quarter has been terrible in terms of the track record for the venture capitals actually releasing funds and actually investing into startups. It's not happening, and I think it's all the companies are feeling right now is that, okay, venture capitals have decided not to continue to inject in their startups, so they're gonna have to buckle up, and they have to cut the operational expenses, and that's what's happening with also global layoffs of large corporations, right? So I think it is to raise 500,000. I think it's possible. I think it just has to be, we have to target the growth market. And the growth market right now, America, Europe isn't performing very well. China, not performing very well. Therefore, what's left behind? India, Southeast Asia, especially like countries like Indonesia, is forecast to grow at 5% this year. This is the latest from IMF. So, which is, is the growth market. And if we're not addressing this growth market, I think it's very hard to show a projection that you can actually, offer the good returns on that 500,000 investments in a few years, that you will be able to multiply that into like 10x. You have to be able to show that to actually get that investment. It's really tough right now.
Mm-hmm. You've talked to many entrepreneurs here. And before I continue with my interview, what do you feel is a question you wish you should have been asked more but haven't already, in a way? Because I feel it's so different when you're a young entrepreneur, even though I'm not that young anymore, it's very hard to ask a question to a problem you haven't even conceptualized yet, because that problem lies in the next level, in a way. So what do you think is a good question somebody should ask you who wants to become successful as an entrepreneur?
Your questions are very tough to answer.
I'm sorry.
It's really great answer.
I should have warned you,
yeah.
but I was afraid that you wouldn't show up if I would
Okay.
tell you this is a deep conversation.
So I think we are humans, and we can't really predict what's going to happen. We were not able to predict the many people didn't really know what was going on with the crypto market. Now it's rising right now, and like pepper coins or whatever, it's going like crazy, right? But most people weren't able to see that happening. Therefore, they didn't actually go into the market at the right time. Now you go in, it's too late, right? So I think what's important is that for young entrepreneurs, believe in your vision is very important, but mentoring, or rather seeking advice, right, to many different people is really, really crucial, because as you said, I consider young as well, but yeah, we all don't have enough experience, really. Yeah. I mean, we're forever, learning about new products, new services, new markets. The markets are changing, right? How much do we know about the Indonesian market? Not really. Yeah, Bali is a little bit different, right? So it's really important that so which market do we want to address, and to try to get that kind of growth, we have to think about it, and we have to ask and seek advice. So I think it's in Bali, and especially in Bali, there's so many amazing people, and they're really willing to share. If you come with the right attitude and the right way of connecting with them and asking them. So many great entrepreneurs here. Yeah. And they will share valuable informations or experiences so that we don't go off track. So I think it's really important to build a good network of people that you can call upon when you need to, as a mentors, as advisor, as a guide to help you through all the different challenges.
I couldn't agree more, and this is what this podcast is based upon. I like the idea of, firstly, for myself, to have a golden ticket to education, to learn from people such as yourself, but also to share this so that you're just one click away from learning from somebody who it took them maybe their whole life to learn this particular attitude or skill or characteristical attribute. When you think of the word teacher, like, what person comes to mind from your journey who maybe helped you more than others to become successful in your own regard, even though I know you still think of yourself as the student, which is probably like one of the greatest signals that you're on your path in a way. Like, who comes to mind when you think of a mentor who helped you in this regard now? Or is helping you, can also be this.
Yes. So I think if I remember, one of my first teachers when I first went to Malaysia, and I think I owe it to these teachers. Actually, they are British teachers in Kuala Lumpur, and there's two ladies, Miss Kelly and Miss Miss Carey, let's call it. Yeah. So they were like very patient. They were patient with this dumb and mute, a student that couldn't speak English, but they kind of accepted it because they thought that it's like I guess they took it upon themselves to really help me to be able to speak from zero to from nothing to be able to be English speaker, right? So I think that's that kind of like a big heart. I have to really thank the teacher for that. Yeah. And so obviously that was a very, very big help for me. And now today, yes, I have to also thank people like so the two people come to my mind right now that currently helping me. One is Robert Ian Bonnick. He's an inspirational speaker. He's great in terms of interviewer for Speak Up Monday. He's been a great advisor and also mentor in how we should, articulate our communications and how we should approach challenging problems. So he's been a great help for me. Another person recently I met was Michael Fox. He's from MIT Venture Services, and so he's obviously a great lecturer, teacher in terms of entrepreneurship and how to start your own venture. That's really it's a science and it's art, and yeah. So it's been like a lot of it's been a very valuable things that he's been teaching me and guiding me.
If you could have a message for Robert from Speak Up Monday, who's a great role model for me personally, as well, actually one of the people who inspired me to do this here today, is like, what message do you have for him?
I'll say continue his his mission in his life, and we also feel that he's done so much for all of us during especially COVID time. There's so many people were touched by the program that he was, he's been faithfully doing it every Monday, every Monday for the last 3 years, that's why he has episodes 300, almost 70 episodes, right? And more than 200 is being shot here in Tropical Nomad, and we have learned a lot, because it's simply that the stories that he brought was all about humanity. In a time of difficulty, how people respond to that difficulty, and then how people overcome with a positive mindset, right? And it's not a simple, just like feel good kind of story. No, it is about really like take people into deep, situations, and then trying to get that message, come back from those kind of difficult times. It's not easy, but he leads the people very well. So yeah, I think that's his gift and a talent. I hope he will continue to do that more and more, and then so that he can really help and spread the very positive messess. Yeah.
Consistency is something that inspired me about him right away. It's like, for example, I had a very high fever yesterday. I got a cold, and just the idea of like Robert would have shown up today was like he just doesn't miss a beat in a way. It's like gave me the idea of what consistency means as an entrepreneur, is to be professional and show up to work, and that there's no other way around. And like that's something that already changed me from the very few interactions I had with him in a way. Tell us about Tropical. This is Tropical Nomad, the co-working space. What's the story behind it? Because I feel like one of the when we had our last conversation, really inspired me last time was how you found this place, what it was in the beginning.
Okay, yeah,
and maybe you can share this story a little bit.
So this place was a factory for leather jackets, very fancy shoes, and so that was my business partners factory, and he actually he's a long timer in Bali as well. And he discovered the Balinese people are so good with their hands. So, the craftsmanship, this is a top class. It's telling you, the world-class craftsmen are in Bali and making, these are Balinese people who are artisans, basically. So they can make all these amazing things. So he was like making jacket for Lenny Kravitz and people like that. So it's pretty amazing stuff. So, so he was actually, came to me and said that, I have this factory, but I really think that, want to convert it into something else. And so we said, let's do co-working space, because that's very interesting model. And we thought that, we really didn't really know. We've seen a few other co-working space, and they're doing very well. These are very early days of digital nomads coming to Bali, right? So I just sensed that, that's like very interesting. I was doing like all these different hospitality projects, restaurants and cafes, and it was very unidirectional. Means it's one direction where if we were very creative and then if we came out with a great F&B concept, then people come, right? People want to come and experience. But often, it's a high risk, high return, yes, and so we fail as well. Right? Because sometimes we kind of assume that was what customer wanted, but it's not really what customer wants. Problem with brick and mortar, restaurant business is that everything is custom made, right? The feel, the ambience, and the interior, down to the chair, and how everything is laid out, the food and everything. So once it's kind of like fixed and then it's been built, it's very hard to change. Right, so that's like a limitation in terms of scalability as well. And if things doesn't work, you have to close it down, shut it down, and stop bleeding, right? So, co-working model was very interesting because it actually is about community. It's about being relevant and making a space for helping people to be productive, right? Yes. But how we work also has changed drastically. Mm-hmm. Right, and then what my guess was that we should be able to create a space based on the customer, the members' feedback, and so that we continuously have a feedback loop, and then so that we can continue to evolve and improve and be relevant to people. So that's actually was my original concept and vision. I think this will work because now it is not about unidirectional things. Now we can continue to evolve and pivot as technology advances, for example.
Yes. Yeah, no, fascinating. It's one of the things I liked how you described to me when you first laid eyes on this factory, so to say, in regards to the idea that you mentioned that people over there in the tropical garden that people can't see right now, like people would pile in their dirt or something like this. What kind of message do you have for somebody who has a vision for something that isn't already there but wants to build it? Because I think that's something special about you, where it's like you can see things before they are, and you, as a true entrepreneur, make sure that they exist in a way. It's like you're a creator in its most fundamental sense, I believe, in a way. So what advice do you have for somebody where they are waiting for their first big creation to take place in reality? Because before that, you were kind of like a lunatic, I feel. You were like...
just doing everything and anything.
Right. Like you need that first proof that it's like what I'm doing will exist in something magical in the real world.
I think it's the creativity and innovation, right? How do we actually try to get that the business model or the design, or these are that first spark, right? That's how I think entrepreneurs, they nurture that, therefore they're entrepreneurs, right? And I think it's that we need to be in a place that there are people that will inspire you, because we're always looking for that inspiration, but it doesn't really naturally come. It doesn't usually come in the bedroom. it doesn't usually come in isolated place. But when we are actually just like mingling, talking, totally different things. But sometimes some things that was said in the conversation can actually bring that like ideas, right? So I think ideas are sparked and by community, by around being around people, and so I think we have to place ourselves into somewhere that always there are interesting people around. Yeah, that's important thing.
If you have a message for the people who visit this place in regards to something you want to say to them, what would you say to them in a way? Because I feel it's rarely do we get the chance to connect with the spirit that was responsible for something to begin with in a way. What do you hope that this will give to other people?
I hope, I really truly believe that we are creating community, and that's the most important thing today. Not just saying that community. I mean, it's a really, really abused word, but it's community of innovative, creative, people, and that's what community is. The sole purpose of existence is to provide the other creativity and talks or anything that sparked that the new innovation. And I think that's really what's really important. So I think it's all about how we can actually be relevant to the people here, what kind of value that we can offer, how are we going to do that sustainably so that there will be a continuous flow of new people coming in with new ideas, new experience, and how can we actually make this community a safe place to share those ideas.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the safety is really important. So keeping inclusiveness, diversity, these two values becomes very important because diversity is about respect. Being different, backgrounds and all that. If we have a respect, then we can actually embrace the diversity, right? Inclusiveness is also very important in terms of safety. We can't be exclusive and start to be like, okay, you're because of your background, so and so, therefore we don't allow you to be in here, right? That doesn't create any, safe place where you feel comfortable to share about your backgrounds, about your ideas. If you always have a sense of fear that those people is going to steal your ideas, of course, it's a big no-no, right? So inclusive but yet diverse, and then it has safe haven or safe environment. That's really absolutely important, I think.
Yeah, and I think you succeeded in this, and it's one of the persons who inspired me, for example, here is Ayu. Like one of the people
Ayu.
I met here, who always had an open ear for my new ideas and epiphanies in a way, and just having a space where somebody listens to your ideas is because when you tell your ideas to somebody, you also listen to yourself, and it's actually part of the creative process in a way. And like having a place where there's room for craziness or like openly talking about how to change the world or how to make a new business work without being mocked or without like it being attacked right away, is you can't put a price tag on it. And this would maybe be my follow-up question, like how did you succeed at creating like also a team here who is aligned with the ethos of your company in a way? Because I think this is, as we entrepreneurs grow, we all will have teams. So what is you maybe like if you would give a little masterclass on leadership, something that you you feel everybody should know, or something that has worked for you?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely a great point there. Yeah, I mean, kudos to IU. Thank you very much for really running events and really being the personification of what Tropical Nomad community should be, and that's what she's doing. And it's really great honor to be able to work with these people. And I think it's sometimes it's by, I guess, destiny or coincidence. It's that we were so she actually kind of stepped up and took up these additional roles, right? And that was, I think it was really thanks to her that what she wanted to try out. So that's why it was really great, because when we actually were starting to ramp up these events, and we had two choices, and then I think either to hire external person or find somebody that will take care of that. And I didn't know initially that she had a great extrovert side of her. She had a great ways to connect and with people. And so I said, yeah, you just try and give it a like I just said, yeah. So her peers also recommended her, saying that yeah, she'll make a good event person. So I said, whoa, okay, I didn't know that. Yeah, let's give her a try. And so that's how we actually get her to be this this face of Tropical Nomad for all the events and partnerships at the moment. Yeah. So I think as Tropical Nomad, we are, we want to give opportunities to people who doesn't really have experience or who hasn't really come from the background. We don't usually hire like experienced staff. Why? It's because it's young people are, especially in Bali, they're amazing in the sense that they already know how to be hospitable, how to do things with the people from outside of Bali, from all sorts of international people, and then they're very accommodating, they're very welcoming, and then they always are with a great big smile, which is I love about Bali. And we have to give more chance to young people, I'll say. Yeah.
I love that. And it's like I think that's also something that differentiates great companies from good companies in a way. There seems to be something about installing like a cultural identity, like where everybody knows this is our mission, this is what we stand for, this is what we do not tolerate, where the group in itself becomes self-policing and the standards gets raised to the same. How would you help a young entrepreneur who's about to start his first team to install an ethos of excellence and loyalty in the people who work for him and work for the mission?
Yes, I think it's first is really give it a try, meaning to say that it's very hard to actually find the right people through just over an interview, half an hour interview, job interview, and then try to suss out this person, whether that's people are really what they say and claim who they are, and whether we can actually see that whether this person actually is a fit for the culture and the value of this, say, this business, right? It's so hard to be able to see that, even though you go through 3 different interviews. It's most of the time, it's 50-50, right? So what I think is that, everybody should be given a chance, but we also have to make a guess sometimes about this person and assess, okay, does she or he have a quality to take up this role, right? And then I think it's empowering the person to make those decisions, yeah, initially together, but at one time you have to let go, right? Because we all like entrepreneurs, and then like we like to have a control of the situation, but that's isn't going to build any independence. It's not going to make your business scale if everything is decided by you. So you're gonna have to let go. So to me, it's earlier the better. If we can actually let go to that person, empower that person, and that person start to, do a really, really great job. That's the for me is the best thing to do. Yeah. That's
one of the things I wanted to learn from you. I've been, maybe I'm speaking for other people at Tropical as well, and for solopreneurs in particular. I think one of the bad habits that you accumulate while being a solopreneur is the idea of you have to do everything by yourself, in a way. And it's like, how can you compete with a corporate structure who they have departments and everything if you learn or that it's not okay to build pillars among your dreams in a way. You've been running several businesses at the same times, as you share with me. How would you teach somebody to be effective in regards to having several businesses or even one business at the same time that works and grows without you in a way? Because I think that's a big shift in a way.
Yes, it's really, really critical when we start to actually run multiple companies. And I think nowadays, we can't afford not to, because there's so much risk in doing any business, right?
Yeah.
So what's important is that one of the business, few of these business, doing pretty well. But if some of the business do extremely well, actually can cover a lot of losses on the other businesses, for example, right? So it's really important that we diversify. And to build a scalable business, it is absolutely important that you don't create a single point of failure, right? Which is an IT term, but it also applies to business. If you are the weak link in the chain, you are the source of failures. And often we don't realize when we're actually on the mission to, get this startup going or this company to stable or whatever that is, right? We don't realize our overpoweringness. Sometimes that is the biggest problem, that because we are tunnel visioned, right? So that's also come back to the mentors and advisors. Yeah. But if we have tunnel vision, and then when we start to build everything on you can't scale. The business will not scale. You're the weakest link. You're the slowest point, and it's not going to be agile. Yeah. Because as a human, we are not really designed for multitasking, really, so that we can only focus one task at a time, and then we will be making like those multiple decisions, critical decisions, right, in daily life for the operations of each of the businesses. So it's important that you build from the mindset that, okay, I won't be able to do this every day in the future, so how can I reduce the reliance on myself and start to delegate or have, for example, like automate some of these tasks, and so that it can be made automatically based on the decisions. Maybe perhaps AI and all this will become a very, really strong tool in helping the entrepreneurs in the future. The point is that you try to delegate, you try to be able to create a trustable entities or departments or people in charge of certain business operations, and regularly just check on the status, randomly, and then to make sure that all these functions are working. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing this in regards to this. Did you learn this from getting sick to some degree also?
Perhaps yes, because
maybe,
it's like,
right?
Yeah, because that was really like my career is like going down, because it's so it wasn't a sales department, right? I was a technical sales, so therefore, if I don't perform for 3 months, warning, 6 months, I'm out. Literally, they'll kick me out, right? Yeah. And it's a very it's a rat race, dog eat dog, kind of like it's extremely competitive situation. So it's if you are if you're just relying on yourself, it's not going to give you any stability. It's not going to give you any how should I say balance in life, because it's really you're the single point of failure. Yeah. If you go down, then everything goes down, right? Yeah. You can't really automate these things. So,
personal story of mine. I found it extremely hard to pursue a big vision while also maintaining equilibrium in regards to the health of the other dimensions of my life. I just think it's very challenging to keep your romantic relationship going while you're pursuing for that big thing. In a way, it's so far I already discovered like how to live for my mission, so to say. What was the moment in life where you figured out the secret to moving big things while not losing yourself and the ones you love in the process?
It's a extremely difficult choice. I'll say that everybody will go through this, tough times with your partners and your families, and then choosing your career or your personal ambitions. right? We cannot be selfish to the point that we just put everybody in a risk or that we don't care. You know, it's as a human being, I know that I cannot survive all on my own. I do appreciate my wife. I do appreciate my family because they give me the moral support. You know, why am I doing all this for? Is, of course, we have to ask ourselves, if it is for just for yourself, then maybe you're not the right person to have a relationship because that you don't really care about, you know, you don't think that your family is a moral support, emotional support, you know, they're just like, then that's obviously that you don't need a relationship, right? But if you are seeking for a relationship, then we're going to have to also be able to respect and, you know, the other person. And to do that, I think it's like it's really about your value. Sometimes when we are driven really hard, we forget, right, that there are family and there are people that's waiting. Actually, you know, yeah. We often forget something really important, yeah. Right? And so important thing is that first is that have a very supportive partner. That's absolutely important, that they understand your ambition, they understand, and they are going to support in a way that, you know, they will also let go. And often, you know, a toxic relationship, I see that the people can't let go. You know, they want to dominate you, they want to control you. And once you become locked into that kind of situation, it's extremely difficult to balance your career, your personal, you know, ambitions or businesses that you're trying to build, because that person will always come and say that, hey, you always have to remember me, you have to always take care of me. Yes, but is the point that, you know, that can you actually have a shared value with your partner and do this as it's for both of us or all of us, you know? I think it's so challenging.
What advice would you give somebody where they have lived a very monodimensional life, but they have the wish to have a family, to have a healthy relationship, but they also have like this obsession within them to leave their impact on the world? Is it a realistic goal that these people can have both, or is it where you have to sacrifice one thing? Are there certain games in life you can only play when you're all in, or is this something where, because I feel finding peace in regards to these questions will help that particular person to accept the pain that comes with the journey of either compromising the dream or compromising the balance, right?
Yeah. I think there are different kind of level of compromise or sacrifice, right? Some are like extremely like you are, you know, you are so needed in, say, in a conflict zone, and then you're doing, you know, working for NGOs, and then you're doing amazing thing, but you're gonna be away from your partner, your family for like whole year. Maybe once a year you get to meet them. You know, military service maybe also. These are like extreme situations, but yeah, it's sometimes, you know, people are meant to do that. That's their calling, or that's their, you know, mission in life, and then you're gonna have to do that. Then yeah, I think it's really your family, you know, they have to understand, and then they have to be supportive. I think it will pretty much break most of the you know, partnerships when it comes to that kind of situation. You know, it's like it's because one party may feel that it's completely neglected, and then, you know, they don't connect with you in that sense that, you know, that's something really important to you. Then I think it's going to be really difficult. So I think there's a different level, but I think for like a, you know, entrepreneur journey, yeah, we have to work hard, and then often we're in the office for a long time, or you know, away from the home. I think you could still build the balance in a sense that, you know, you still have a good contact time, and then, you know, always touching base with your family, but then you're also given respect to have your own personal time to focus on your, you know, on your work stuff. And that's I think it's that balance is extremely important for us who are trying to you know, doing this entrepreneurship journey. And when we're doing multiple different companies and all that, quickly your time will be consumed. So you know, I would say that one thing from what I learned is that, you know, always try to find a way to give a flexibility to yourself. I mean to say that don't put yourself in a situation that you have to be dedicating like 8 hours of time in like unnegotiably. So be flexible, meaning that you could, if there's something happen, then you could immediately drop everything and then say go. You know, that you have to be able to create that environment. Otherwise, it's too consuming, and it's the family members or your partner will really feel.
No, I couldn't agree more there. And I think there's something I learned from our first conversation where you told me it's not wise to make yourself the face of the company, because first it doesn't work without you then, and it also like it needs you to be there all the time to some degree. Anyway, man, what's a book you wish you read sooner in regards like now we enter the last part of our episodes. It's like, let's fill up the toolkit of the people who listen to this with some useful things that they can acquire or learn or do in a way in regards to action, homework assignments.
I think
can be book, masterclass, some investment they
yeah.
can make with pocket money, where it's like if they allocate the time and the money to either getting the book or the masterclass or the whatever supplement, what is like something you would say, do that?
I think it's we, you know how things have changed, you know, in the last 3 years or so since the pandemic. Maybe I'm repeating this, but you know how the management and you know, human interactions and especially how you create your team and lead your team, you know, those like old-fashioned way of top-down nature is completely disappeared. Right, and we're dealing with a more young, talented people, Generation Z, and they are so different in the sense that they are multitasking everything, and then they are not very respectful in the like old traditional sense. You know, they are very flexible, and they only look up to people that really are genuine. Right. So if you are not genuine, then they will pretty much label you. They will, you know, don't give the respect, and it doesn't function as a team, right? So I'm learning right now how to be, you know, a leader who could actually understand that emotional and what's the right word? I don't know what's the right word, but to be able to connect with these young generations, you know, I think it's really extremely important now, you know, because we all working in like a remote settings. We all, you know, have a teams all over the place, but I think it's management or working together has become so difficult. So it definitely is the next level. So I really like to learn about that, how actually we should be, you know, demonstrating our skill to lead and also to manage people. I think that's so crucial now.
Yeah, this is what one of the things I like about you is you're also a schooler after all these years. I feel like, what are some questions you haven't found the answer for? Like, what is if you could interview anybody from history in regards to having a podcast with, who would you invite and what would you ask them?
Yes, that's an interesting question. I think I really love to talk to. I guess it's like, this is about where we're going to, you know, like as a human, and what we're going to do with the future. Right now is so, you know, there's war everywhere, conflicts everywhere, and it seems like all our old values are gone. It's kind of a chaotic situation. Like America is in. I feel that it's so polarized, and it's like a bipolar person. You know, it's like it's. So, I think it's obviously it's like things are changing so fast, and in a way, I don't know who to ask for advice, because this right now it's completely different in my opinion. So how can we be more like, is there gonna be a true sense of universal value now?
Yeah.
I don't think there will be now. Everything is about like being kind of selfish, right? Like, yeah, each country wants to just dictate the way they want to be, and then they don't give a shit about others, and then they're basically bullying, yeah, all the weaker ones, right? And the life doesn't seem to mean anything nowadays. I mean, in war, it's just massive massacres and all that. And this is 21st century. I mean, did we learn anything from history? Nothing. So, like, who do we actually call upon? I really don't know. I mean, who has the answer? Maybe AI.
Well, as I told you about the company I'm building, I'm fearing for this. Actually, this is the reason why I'm building this marketplace where we can resurrect the great thinkers of the past, because I really feel like this degeneration of values is very dangerous, because there's one of my favorite quotes is from Nietzsche, is that we killed God and our blood is still on our hands. And he predicted great wars of the last century, because there were no longer the values in place that prevented the individuals from corrupting to the degree that there were no longer enough good people who can prevent these atrocities from happening. And I'm very worried right now, and it's like part of what these interviews are also about is to learn from successful people who are not of the same generation as me, but also to receive warnings maybe. And maybe what's like something, if you can talk to my generation, that you want us to remember, or something you wish either like a lesson you wish we make, or even a warning you convey to us, like maybe in the form of a time capsule that it would survive the test of time, like what you put in this time capsule, so to say.
I think it's just all the history of a human, what we've been doing with this 2,000, 3,000 years of evolution it's coming to a point that it is too repetitive. So I think it's like we're going to have to learn from each of these, and then trying to make sense out of, like, we as a human, we are designed to, multiply and, basically to expand your influence, but it's not making sense if we are starting to killing each other, right? And then going back to those medieval times, it just doesn't make sense. We should be evolving to for more greater wealth that we could all share, not like exclusively, trying to hog everything about for yourself, right? So, I think it's kind of like it's time that we actually understand the history, and then, of course, things has changed so much, and then try to figure out what is the best way for us to enjoy success. Because if the success is earned by blood on your hand, it's just a murderer, and just we are just stealing from others, and that's not really being creative. That's nothing innovative about it. There's no value per se. I really think about universal value nowadays because it doesn't exist anymore. And then it's like, when we talk about community, it should be about that, for greater benefits of all of us, and what can we create is the point. But there's nothing out there right now that actually shows that today, right? So I would like to really find like what's the next for us, really.
If you could touch the shoulder of every young person in the world, and you would give them a task in a way in regards to like a message, because you mentioned earlier that your mother allowed you to have your adventure and go into the world. It was a call to action, so to say. Like, what would you say, like in a few lines, to the next generation in regards to their responsibilities, their opportunities, in regards to just a message before you send them out on the brutal adventure of their life?
I think be emotionally, mentally, you have to prepare yourself and be tough, because the world is getting pretty scary place. So I think it's like it's really, really tough for young people to actually succeed today, I feel. So don't lose heart. Keep on trying. Keep on trying, and we have to create the some sort of social net. Just in case. It's pretty scary when you're alone, and then you go into big cities, and then you get into problems, situations, and all that, and there's nobody to help you out, right? So somehow we have to provide social net. Same in Bali as well. There's so many people that are actually in very, very difficult situations.
Yeah.
But we don't really see that, and we don't really care, and we don't really do things, as much as that we should be doing. So I think social net is really important to provide for young people, and then let them have a culture of trying and then discovering, and creativity is the most probably the answer in this AI generation. We're gonna have to be more creative than AI. Yeah. We're gonna have to be always be innovating. That's not what AI is good at, because AI is only learning from past data, right? So you're gonna have to be able to come out with something totally out of the box in order to be able to survive per se. So don't be fearful of failures. Keep on trying. I think that's the message I would like to say.
Keep on trying. Yeah. I'm not sure you can equip a young man with something, or a young woman for that with something that can be more useful. 2 more questions, and I think we cut this long interview of almost 2 hours short. Ichi Yamada, what do you want to be remembered for?
I don't have much wish for that. I think it's important thing is that we are all doing this together, and I'm just a piece of that whole movement. And then I hope that in Bali at least we can create healthy community. And if I can contribute right now, that's great. But I need people to take up the same flag as well and continue that. So I'm just one of those people that's going to be doing that. And I think I will do my best. I might fail, but I think it's like, so long as there's other people also, if they see that these are great things to continue, and then evolve it, change it, and then make relevant to that, for the community, then that's perfect. So yeah, I think that's my answer.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Humility, one of the many virtues I admire about you. Certainly one I haven't mastered up to this point. Me, my little arrogant ass. And thank you so much for making room for your appearance in the Psychology Podcast. And I hope that I can also bring something to Tropical, where I interview the most successful people that are currently on the islands or fly in for this very venture, to spark creativity, invention, camaraderie, and community in this very place. I don't have any idea in regards to the Q&A. Would it be possible to ask?
Sure,
because I
yes.
think I stole like 2 hours from it. Maybe some of you guys wants to ask something on the way. Is that possible?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, where's Ayu when we need her? Ayu! We're going to cut this out. Ayu, we wanted to ask if somebody has a question for Ichi. Yeah.
Hello. Thank you so much. I'm curious, when you talked about mentorship, and what is the best way that you've managed to find a mentor, and especially now that maybe the world of offline is not available. So say, for example, you're in your bedroom, you want to find a mentor. How do you maybe recommend people to do that?
I'll say first, seek for right kind of whether you look up in a YouTube channel or different kind of platform. I think whatever you're seeking to be mentored about, try to go through some of these videos somewhere and try to see that whether these people are compatible to your style. Because finding it's like chemistry as well, a mentor and the person that's going to be mentored. So I think find through that online platform and then directly connect. Many of these people are providing, consulting, mentorship, or those lessons, or over online as well. And they do Zoom as well. They do offer online course. Obviously, Daniel will know more about that.
But, actually, the very first article I ever wrote on my blog was how to find a mentor, because it has been such a uplifting experience for me to discover that world-leading experts actually pick up the phone in order to talk to you. And something that I found useful is that you start thinking about who you will be in 5 years and look for people who match that particular version of yourselves as closely as possible. And then you write them a message on wherever they are. And I wouldn't recommend that you, I don't know, for example, that you shoot for the person who's in the limelight right now because they are getting 20,000 emails in a way. But if you want to be, for example, the best swimmer in the world, Michael Phelps won't give you an answer. But the person who scored bronze 3 years ago will do, actually. So if you write them a message on LinkedIn with I used a very similar format in the beginning where it's like, you write them just a quick hello, you make a summary of who you are, like in regards to the business you're working, make a summary of who they are, a personalized thing. Then you ask your request, for example. The thing that I wanted to learn from Ichi was how to make the jump from being an entrepreneur to being a successful one, so to say, like one of the many things in a way. So I approached him in a way and I asked him this particular question and asked him if he can make room for a 50-minute call where I ask him this question. And he would actually be surprised how many of those people pick up, and then you have the opportunity to have a foot in the door. And people like Ichi are walking libraries. They have spent blood and tears and sweat and hours to accumulate their wisdom. If they find somebody like you to pass on what they've learned, you would be surprised how many of those people will pick up the phone. So I hope that was useful. And it's like, maybe you agree with this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's, as far as I know, there's a lot of people during the COVID time as well that providing these, mentoring service over Zoom calls and all that. And obviously, with our community in Tropical Nomad, we did the Speak Up Monday event every Monday, and then that was we were trying to actually broadcast per se through the YouTube to share those people's stories and all that. This encouraging people not to be too negative about situations, that we could actually find the right kind of help. That was actually a lot of that was in that recordings. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Any other questions? Mal, do you have a question?
Thank you. I hope I didn't miss the information during the interview, but you spoke, so at first you were in IT and then you switched into brick and mortars, as you said. Yes. And I'm wondering, as you said, it's about finding what we are good at and keep pushing toward this way. And so how did you realize that you could actually perform well into cafes and restaurants coming from IT? Like, what was I know it was maybe linked to your illness, but I'm like, it's so totally different industries, I would say. So how did you manage to do this switch?
I think in my when I was in Australia, I was obviously in high school and then to move to universities, and I was really poor. I was that poor, and then I had to really work. So my first job was actually at a restaurant, and it was a Mediterranean restaurant, and I was the kitchen hand, washing dishes, cleaning all the stoves and floors and everything in the kitchen at the night, and I was also preparing salads and stuff like that. It was a great opportunity for me to actually learn about cooking, learn about what it is meant to be doing in restaurants. So that probably experience actually was what really made me think that I could do something different. And obviously I didn't know anything. I was just a dishwasher, but I really enjoyed that experience. So that's probably why I felt that, hey, in Bali, what can I do? There's nothing for IT. There's nothing going to pay me what it used to pay me. So I'm going to have to start a business. And then I had a choice whether to do a villa business or a cafe or restaurant, right? That's the two main things that most people end up doing in Bali first time they arrive, right? So I took the second choice was to a little bit more than a cafe, but I was trying to create a coffee business and wanted to export the beans, and so I learned about from the farms to the extraction to processing and to roasting as well. So it was a bit of a journey, but it was really rewarding for me to go through that and learn all that. Yeah. Thank you.
There's another question there. 1 second.
Yep.
Thank you for asking it, Maya.
Thank you very much for this talk. It's very inspiring.
Thank you, Dave.
My question is about how you build your staff, because you said it's not you don't look for high profile or high experience usually.
Yeah.
in a business like this or in a restaurant. So what are the qualities that you look for when people come for an interview? And because they're all like Balinese people, usually look very nice, very kind, always
Yeah.
smiling.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
is it that you say, oh, this guy might be the right guy for the job?
So we usually go back to the Balinese culture in terms of the for Bali. I think this is the best measurement to really measure the not adaptability. What's that? The fit for the job. So what I mean by that is that in Balinese organizations they still respect in hierarchy, and they still follow their how should I say, loyalty is one of the most important measurement for them to when they are forming their organizations. So what I do is that we find talents, and then we go and first hire them as a temporary staff, and see the adaptability, whether these people are able to first work as a group. If because sometimes even for Balinese people, sometimes it's just there's a wrong kind of chemistry. Some may be more how should I say, too creative, or too they always kind of trying to find a way to not to follow the instructions, for example. And I think in the Balinese culture, that is also very disrespectful. So it is important that that leader is able to speak with authority, and then also the team is able to respond with whatever the request is. That is still a basic like a structure in Balinese culture. You can't be totally flat and say that okay, everybody's equal. That's kind of idealistic, and but it's not realistic for Balinese to function as a group. It's like restaurants is all about teamwork. It's a shift work. It's a teamwork. Different teams, like from a floor team to the bar to the kitchen team, right? And they all have their egos as well. Especially when the customer complains about your meal, and then say that hey, that's no good, and then the kitchen will start to blame the floor, saying that because you didn't take the dish quickly enough, so it became cold, and then that's why it's changed, and blah blah blah. And the floor will say that okay, that's like your fault because you didn't make it according to what it should be. And these are like happens even in a Balinese organization. So important thing is that you remember like there's a banja system. Maybe you have heard of banja system in Bali, right? And so this is like a democratic system where everybody votes and make decisions. And it's not just a senior just making decisions. It's actually the votes are given to all the people who's entitled to vote for the decision within that village, for example. So we mimic that decision-making process. So I still have as seniors, the people, some of them has earned a senior position because they have been working for a long time with us. I have a staff that are working for 15 years, right? And so and they do have seniority in terms of age and also professionalism. They didn't work for 15 years because they were lazy, because they were extremely professional, they were very independent, and they were able to make the right decisions for us for each different businesses time to time. So that's why they earned it. But in that, we also don't just put a one man that is in charge of everything. What we do is that we create like a banja system. So we have all the different senior heads of different departments. So one person may be about for the restaurant with floor operations for all the restaurants, right? Another person might be security. So chief of security is in charge of security for all locations, right? And then so they all come together, and if they have a problem, then they come together, discuss about these situations, and then they will vote, right? And then some of those, like especially with employee situations, if there are some problems, conflicts, or something that happened that that involving, say, customer service or something like that, they will be able to make quick decisions and so that we can recover from that situation quickly. Because the decisions are if they all just keep on asking myself, for example, to decide every single thing, then we can't move. I mean, sometimes it might be like I might be making decision 1 week later after the incident happened, then that's way too slow. It's not agile, right? So we have to let go, or rather empower them to make all the small decisions. We, as owners, that should be making decisions for more long term, in terms of investments, in terms of financials, or legals. These are like our responsibility, but I trust the team to take care of, say, the younger employees and the people with certain seniority. They have to act responsibly, and that system of the mimicking the Balinese system has worked quite well for myself for our businesses so far.
Interesting. Thank you. That's very interesting point of view.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any last questions from the audience before we leave Ichi to his other duties that he has stored on? I think we're good, right? Ichi, it was an honor to talk with you today. Guys, thank you so much for showing up. To the
Thank
people
you for coming.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for your questions and listening to our story, and hopefully, some of the ideas that we have that are useful for your journey as well. I mean, I think it's like we are in paradise. I think we have great opportunity. I think it's a great place to do business as well. So hopefully that's something that something beneficial for you guys tonight. And I really appreciate your presence and the question. Thank you. And Daniel, thank you very much for this opportunity.
It was an honor. To everybody who listened from the internet, our audience is now almost 100,000 people strong, so quite a lot of people listened. I hope it brought you another case study of what an admirable person looks like, and I hope you can learn from him in regards to how you make your own journey into life more successful, more effective, and so that you can realize your vision. Thank you so much for everybody tuning in. Thank you for everybody who's here. Thank you, Ayu. None of this would have been possible without you. See you next Tuesday with another guest. See you guys.
Thank you.